Let's get into this. We're going to continue the basics EQ series. What is happening, people? It's your boy Beats back again. Let's get into this. We're going to continue the basics EQ series. Today we're going to get into basic EQ principles of piano and also of synths. So assuming that we've got a good sound source, the audio is clean, we're going to go ahead and use that as the foundation to implement our EQ moves and provide some context as to why we're doing it and the ranges that we're doing it. So again, this is very subjective. For example, different pianos have different tone ranges and sound different due to build quality and woods used. For example, a Bechstein is a very bright sounding piano, and a Bossendorfer is regarded as being quite a warm sounding piano, with Steinways kind of somewhere in the middle depending on what room they're in and their build quality. They vary depending on the different types, but they're somewhere in the middle. So let's go ahead and assume we're treating a piano in general and the basic EQ bands to approach when going to EQ your piano. So the type of piano that we're using on this example is called a German warm piano. So it's going to sound a little warmer. So we're going to brighten it up a little bit, but I'm going to provide the context of the EQ bands that we're going to be manipulating and adding some frequency boosts and cuts to. So let's have a listen to the piano part. Cool, there you go. Simple melodic idea, some chords with a lead line. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead. We've got the chords and the lead line separated out here, and we've grouped them together, and we're going to go ahead and add our EQ to the group. So let's grab our EQ8. Here we go. So the first band we want to look at for overall brightness and the transparent quality of the higher range of a piano is somewhere between the 5.7 and 7.5 kilohertz range. So let's go ahead and tap in there. So we'll plug in number 6. Let's bring it down to around about the 5.4, 5.5 range. We're going to add a little bit of gain to it. Remember I said the EQ8 is quite forgiving. You can add quite a lot of decibels to it. Other EQs that you might want to use like FabFilter, Pro Q and stuff like that, you might not get away with adding such high gain boosts or cuts. We're going to just lower the curve a little bit, and then we're going to A and B this. So it's before, it's after. You can hear we've got that nice bright, I wouldn't say harsh, but it's definitely giving a much more brighter quality and helping the lead line stand out and just making it seem a little bit more sharp and shiny. The next range we want to look at and focus on is the mid-range. Often the mid-range of a piano is cut. This helps get rid of the boxiness of the sound and just add to that clarity. Usually anywhere between 550 Hertz to 1.5 Hertz is where you would provide a cut. So let's go ahead and look at that. So if we start around about 1K, I was always taught that 1K is a real nasty area, and that's a good place to begin in terms of cutting, in terms of both pianos, vocals and heavy guitar parts. So we're going to put a thin Q curve on it and bring that down. let's A and B that again. So just put a bit more of a higher curve on it. Bring it down a bit. As before. This is after. It's got rid of that a lot of that fuzzy information that might kind of get in the way of lower sounding instrument samples, basses and pads, for example. So that will help the parts stand out against those parts and not muddy up your mix too much. With that said, the last thing we want to look at is possibly fattening up the sound. So if you feel like you've lost a bit of warmth from cutting the low mids, you can boost roughly around the 250 to 350 hertz region. So let's go ahead and dial into that. So we've got 200 on here. Set the Q curve a bit higher and boost a few dB. Do the before and after again. After. It's giving it an overall much more richer sound by adding these EQs. You could go ahead and you could put a filter on the bottom and maybe just get rid of any rumble bass information below 40 hertz or so. It's pretty standard practice. And then again with upright pianos, so this is based on a grand piano. On an upright piano, you can also go ahead and look at cutting between the 400 and 900 hertz region, and that will get rid of any kind of boxiness that you would typically find in an upright piano. So that's the piano. This general curve shape that you see is pretty universal in the sense of EQing pianos. So you can go ahead and mess with the curve shape. You might not want to affect such a wide amount of the frequency spectrum and bands. Maybe we could go ahead and pull that one back a little bit. So for example, where we've got our high range, and then also where we've got our mids, I want to thin that out a little bit. Great. So now that we have gone ahead and EQ'd our piano, we're going to go ahead and create a pad part using the bass notes from the chord structure or the chord progression. So let's copy it over, go in, let's delete chords and keep the bass notes. So guys, we've got our pad part. I'll play it for you now. Nice, typical pad part that you would expect in the lower range. Nice, it's a typical low pad part that you would find as an accompaniment to some chords. So let's go ahead and load up our EQ8. Now a good place to start with pads, much like the piano, is to just go ahead and put a high pass filter around 40 hertz again, just to get rid of any unwanted rumble and bass noise. Obviously lots of pads have lots of low end register information in it. So you can see it's just cutting off the bottom end of those sounds. Now a good place to start with synth pads is somewhere between the 275 and 350 hertz region, as this will often fatten up a pad part, especially a pad part that's got chords in it with some high lead notes. With this we can see that we've got a bit of like high pitched gritty information in it, so we can probably utilize that 350 hertz range as well on this. So let's go around there again, thinner Q curve, boost it a little bit, we'll do a before and after. Nice, you can hear it's just adding a very subtle bit of warmth to it, nothing too crazy, but enough that's going to warm it up against the chords that we've already got laid out and EQ'd. Another key area to look at for synths and organs and pads is somewhere between the 1.75 and 3K region, as that can like harden up quite a soft sounding pad if you want to bring out a bit of its high mids and almost a bit of distorted information. So let's go ahead and find that. So we got, let's get to 1.8. It's a good place to start. Again, thinner curve, add a bit. You can hear it's bringing out a bit of the bit of the noise on the higher end of the sound. That kind of static energy is quite nice. And the same principle with the high pass filter. You want to add a low pass filter somewhere between 6 and 10 kilohertz, depending on how much higher based information you've got in there. And then once you've cut that, that'll get rid of any nasty, real high end information that you don't need in there. So we'll go ahead and put our filter on. Bring that down to around about 6. And that's just a general rule of principle here. We haven't got too much information going on up there with this specific pad sound, but it's good practice to get into the habit of doing that. So let's A and B the sound. We've got a lot more presence going on. It is a little bit warmer. It's going to stand out quite nice against the chords. So let's play everything together. And that's it, guys. Basic EQ principles for pianos and for synth pads. I hope you found it useful and I hope you enjoyed it. This is now ready to make into a sample. I'm going to add it into the upcoming sample pack, which is the 5th one in the series. So go ahead and check those out on the Beat Store. And as always, if you've got any questions or suggestions or want me to cover anything in more detail, slap it in the comments and we'll get to it. Take it easy. All the best. Peace. Nice one.